I'm sure you know crime everywhere where you are is up, 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 up. And the number of teenagers, just for example, killed in London in 2021, reached its highest level since a 2008 peak. And that's despite the national lockdown.
Sadiq Khan, the Mayor of London, promises to leave no young person behind as he pledges a personal mentor to every child in need of support by 2024. And Sadiq Khan joins us now. Very good morning to you, Mr. Khan. And it is an absolutely critical issue. You and I have talked a number of times on this programme about how concerning it is for parents in London whose teenagers, see this stuff, experience this stuff, and particularly, tragically, for the parents of those teenagers who have lost their lives. Unfortunately, the rate in London of teenage boys in particular who are lost to knife crime is at a terrible level. How is this scheme potentially going to help?
Well, you rightly challenged me on a regular basis on this really important issue. Just yesterday, I was with another bereaved family who'd lost their son as a consequence of knife crime. You're right, both you and Richard. Last year we did have an unacceptable number of teenage murders, and it is heartbreaking. There's some good news. We're making progress. Knife violence is down. Youth crime is down. Those below the age of 25 who lose their who get stabbed is down, but the numbers who lose their lives is going up. So what we're doing is a number of things. One is making sure we support the police to suppress violence, more police officers in London. But secondly, as you said, we're going to support young people who are at a crossroads, not to join a criminal gang, not to pick up a knife, by giving them opportunities. So every young Londoner will have access to good youth facilities, and every young Londoner will have access, like I did growing up, to a mentor. I'm sure both of you benefited from a role model, a mentor. Too many young boys in particular haven't got access to that. So every young Londoner will be given access to a mentor, a dedicated, trusted role model they can speak to, that can guide them away from what we've seen too often, which is young people picking up a knife or even worse, losing their lives.
And where will they meet these mentors? Will they come to their homes? Will there be sort of centres that they go to? How will it work?
Yes, we're particularly focusing, Richard, on those young Londoners who are susceptible to be led astray. So if you've been excluded from school, the mentors will be in the pupil referral units. If you're in danger of being exploited, living in poverty, if at home you have domestic violence, we'll make sure either at school, youth clubs, pupil referral units, we're going to make sure that a young person knows how to access this mentor, but also to make sure the mentor is relevant to you. There's no point having a mentor that you can't relate to. We've seen the difference they can make from the investment we've done over the last few months. Last time I was on this programme, Richard, Susanna rightly challenged me in relation to the numbers of young people picking up a knife. The good news is, actually, the numbers of young people who suffer knife injuries is going down. Youth violence is going down. But unfortunately, the ferociousness when people do use a knife means more teenagers are losing their lives.
We have a wonderful police force in this country, and for all the criticisms of the Met, which are currently ongoing, we have wonderful police here in London. There's no question about that. But we do have issues with the Metropolitan Police, big time. I've never known a chief police officer who's had such sustained calls for resignation. And Cressida Dick is in a very, very tight spot at the moment. We've had these terrible, terrible revelations of racism and misogyny in certain sections of the London Police, based in Charing Cross, but elsewhere as well. These awful racist messages that they exchanged and everything. And there's Cressida Dick still in post. A lot of people want her gone. Do you want her gone?
Well, I think it's possible to accept and give credit to our brave officers, excellent officers. We should thank them when we see them, but also to recognise there are big problems in the police service. What you saw in Operation Houghton in Charing Cross Police Station wasn't one police officer acting in a way that is sexist, racist, misogynistic, Islamophobic, homophobic, anti-Semitic. 14 police officers behaving in a way that is unacceptable. It was unacceptable in the 70s and 80s when I was growing up, and it was too common, and it's unacceptable now. I've been quite clear to the Commissioner when I met her last week. She needs to show to me that she understands how serious this is and has a plan to root out from our police service any police officer who is racist, sexist, misogynistic and the like. But secondly, as importantly, what her plan is to the trust and confidence that has been knocked and shattered as a consequence of not an isolated case, not a historic case, but too many examples of this sort of behaviour.
But of course, you see, as London Mayor, you don't have any power to get rid of her. That lies with the Home Secretary. If you did have that power, and many people think that you should, would you get rid of her now? Would you not bother giving her one last chance, one last warning? You know, here we go, you need to come back and prove to me that you're up for this. Would you actually just decide that it was time to get rid of her?
Let's wait and see what the Commissioner comes back to me with. I've been quite clear in relation to my expectations of the Commissioner. I believe in due process. She's going to come back to me and let me know her response to these two things. And one of my jobs, though, I've been elected by Londoners to be the Police and Crime Commissioner. That doesn't mean unconditional support. If it is the case that anybody who works for me doesn't have the high standards that I expect of them, that Londoners expect for them, I'm not going to keep it a secret.
I want to talk to you about other role models, Sadiq Khan, as you're talking about this scheme to encourage young people, young boys in particular, to behave better. They often look up to footballers, of course. What do you make, as a football fan, and the mayor of the city where West Ham play, of Kurt Zouma's behaviour and the fact that he played a full game last night? I mean, is that the sort of behaviour that we should be showing young people?
But we've got to accept, whether we like it or not, you're a role model, I'm a role model, the Prime Minister's a role model, Premier League footballers are role models. We've got to be held to account when we don't maintain high standards. I think this footballer is a disgrace. I think the RSPCA and the police should be looking into a criminal prosecution. I think West Ham, as this player's employer and as a club that's loved by tens of thousands of fans across London and across the country, should be taking action. I think Mr. Zouma himself should reflect on what he's done. He himself should show some contrition, because if you get away with bad behaviour, whether you're the Prime Minister, the Mayor or a footballer, young people who look up to you think that's the way to behave and Absolutely. It's okay.
Absolutely.
And that's why it's so important that, you know, Premier League footballers, you know, myself, the Prime Minister, even with respect, people like you and Richard, are held to account. Why? Because people look up to us.
Would you agree that it was shameless of West Ham to play him last night? It was a definition of shamelessness, of absolute contempt for public opinion, including their own fans, who booed him every time he got a touch of the ball. I think it was a definition of shameless. What do you think?
I think the owners of the club, I think David Moyes, should reflect on whether winning the points were more important than condoning animal cruelty. That cat couldn't defend himself. It was an acts of a bully. And I think David Moyes, who's a decent man, and West Ham, who understand the importance of decent behaviour, should reflect on whether those 3 points were worth their reputation, in my view, being affected, but also condoning of what this guy was done. And by the way, you know, it wasn't done in secret. It was done and then put out on social media, which shows a lack of contrition.
The decision to play him makes it look as if West Ham is basically saying, yeah, we know what he did, but we don't care. That's effectively the message that they sent out last night. Can I just bring you back just to policing before we wrap this up? I don't often feel confident that I'm speaking for Britain on this programme, because I speak for myself, but I think I am speaking for Britain if I were to say this. Virtually every person in this country, when they consider their policing, wherever they are, Manchester, Birmingham, Liverpool, Scotland, you name it, London, they want to see more policemen on the beat. They want to see them patrolling on foot and having access to them, not zooming past with blue lights flashing, which is usually the only time we see a policeman. They want burglaries investigated and the crimes solved. And they want cars that are stolen found and returned. And none of those things have been happening, and it's getting worse. Do you agree that we need a root and branch reform of the way that we police ourselves in this country, and a return to the standards of maybe 30 and 40 years ago?
Well, I think you've got to be careful looking through rose-tinted glasses about 20, 30 years, because if you're somebody of my colour, or Susanna's sex and gender, things weren't great 20, 30 years ago. But I think your basic point is a good one. We want to see more police officers, men and women, across our country, all cities, all villages, all towns across our country. For the last 11 years, Richard, we've seen massive cuts in police officer numbers. We've lost more than 21,000. And that's leading to, across the country, you know, violent crime going up, burglaries going up, robberies going up. There is some good news, though. In the last few years in London, We've invested record sums from City Hall, 1,300 more police officers. And as a consequence, since I've been mayor, burglaries have been going down, knife crime is going down, violent crime is going down. Not complacent at all, but it's a combination of both investing in more police officers, more suppression of crimes, but also dealing with the root causes, not excusing criminality, but diverting young people in particular away from a life of crime. And that means the government reversing and U-turning completely some of the cuts made on both policing, but also public services, youth services and the like. We need these crimes prevented. The best way to reduce crime is stop it occurring in the first place.
Well, look, we're out of time, but good luck with your mentoring scheme. I personally think it's a terrific idea.
Yeah.
And not before time.
Sadiq Khan, just one last one, sorry. Is it safe for politicians to walk around the streets of London right now?
No. I've got outside this studio 5 police officers, all armed, keeping me safe because of threats to my life. Keir Starmer and David Lammy were walking from the Ministry of Defence after receiving a briefing about Ukraine, walking back to their offices in Parliament. They were threatened. One of the officers protecting Keir Starmer was one of my police protection officers. It shouldn't be the norm that politicians have to have protection to look after them. I think, though, by the way, I think words have consequences. You know, when you're on the dispatch box in the House of Commons, when you're the Prime Minister and you are normalising conspiracy theories, not only are you distracting from serious allegations of you yourself breaking the law with bring your own booze, but also you are normalising far-right theories, endangering the lives of not just politicians that are alive now. We know, I'm afraid, Sir David Amess. We know, I'm afraid, dear friend of mine, Joe Cox, lost their lives. Another dear friend, Stephen Timms, almost lost his life as a result of stabbings. We should be cognizant of the consequences of our words. I don't live in a society, Susanna, where I can't mix and mingle with ordinary Londoners. You know, and that's, if we get to that stage, I think we'll rue it.
Can I just check something that you said in your reply to Susanna's question? Did you say that you have 5 armed police officers, all of them carrying guns to protect you? 5?
Yeah, I can't go into details of the sort of protection that I have, but yep, that's the state we're in. Where you've
see, that is if you'd said that on an interview 25 years ago on the predecessor to this programme, we'd think you were fantasising. You have to have 5 armed police officers wherever you go. What an indictment.
It's shocking. Sadiq Khan, we appreciate your time this morning. Stay safe. Everyone should stay safe. And you're right, words have consequences. But let's not let off the hook the people who harass and abuse people in the street.
Absolutely.
You know, protest is legitimate. Harassment, abuse and threats, all totally unacceptable.
Yeah.
Sadiq Khan, thanks very much indeed.
Stay safe.